When the rich kid framed his black classmate 10 years later, the shocking revenge unfolds. It was a chilly autumn afternoon when the weight of a decade came crashing down on Maplewood High. The air was thick with tension, every student instinctively holding their breath as they sensed something big was about to happen. Under the flickering fluorescent lights, whispers turned into gasps, and those gasps became a crescendo of shocked disbelief. What if I told you 10 years ago, a rich kid bent on protecting his family's name had framed an innocent classmate, throwing a young black man into a world of chaos? Now, with dark clouds looming over Maplewood, confusion settled like a heavy fog. Secrets were about to unravel, secrets that would leave every last person in that school shaken to their core. Standing at the center of it all was Josh Turner, the once despised scapegoat, whose life had been upended without reason. Now, he was back, changed but unmistakable. The aura surrounding him felt electric, charged with revenge. Meanwhile, at the other end of the school, Trevor Henderson basked in his privileged bubble, feeling untouchable, cozy in his wealth. No one knew the depth of the darkness surrounding his past. No one knew how Josh had spent the years rebuilding himself after being falsely accused. Still, Trevor laughed it off, dismissing the rumors about Josh and the strange occurrences surrounding his return, a series of accidents that felt too coincidental to ignore. As whispers filled the halls, the unexpected became surreal. The air turned icy when the school's beloved principal suffered a heart attack moments after confronting Trevor, his only son's best friend. Just as the sirens wailed in the distance, a chilling premonition swept through the gathered crowd. Could it be the ghost of the past coming back to claim its due? The subtle tension in the air grew heavier, like a storm about to break. For everyone watching, it felt as if fate had joined the unfolding spectacle in a twisted game of justice. Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the dust settled from the commotion, Josh felt a pulse of adrenaline racing through his veins. It was the moment he'd been waiting for. He locked eyes with Trevor, hatred simmering just below the surface. What would he do? The weight of the past threatened to crush him, but within the chaos, he saw something, a glimmer of hope in the fire of his vendetta. But there hung a dreadful question in the air: would revenge taste as sweet as he had imagined? As laughter faded and fear crept back into the mix, Josh took a deep breath, clenching his fists, ready to unleash the long-awaited reckoning. Unbeknownst to them all, they were sitting on the brink of a chaotic storm that would tear apart everything they thought they knew. And for each turn of fate, the next move was on the edge of a knife. What would happen when all the truths bubbled to the surface? The air crackled with hostility as Josh approached Trevor, who stood momentarily frozen in shock, eyes wide, dark shadows creeping over his face. The murmurs around them faded, swallowed by an oppressive silence that felt too thick to cut through. Students who had been laughing moments before watched with bated breath, sensing they were witnessing a confrontation that transcended their understanding. Still feeling untouchable, Trevor? Josh's voice cut through the air like a knife. It was calm, almost eerie. It held a weight born from years of pent-up rage and sorrow. The laughter that usually bubbled from his mouth had long since been silenced, replaced by a serene determination. "No, man, this isn't," Josh interrupted, his muscles tensing, ready to unleash years of pain. "It always was. But now, things have changed." Trevor's bravado began to waver as he realized the tide was shifting. The crowd surged forward, drawn into the gravity of the moment, faces filled with curiosity, apprehension, and just a hint of glee. This wasn't just a high school fight, it was a blood feud, a clash of status, and a brewing storm threatening to engulf them all. While Josh's words simmered in the air, chaos erupted beyond them, as a group of students hastily carried the principal's lifeless form out on a stretcher. The sight was ghastly and sobering. and it sent a wave of shock through the assembled crowd. A deep shudder ran through their ranks, but Josh remained fixed on Trevor, an unwavering intensity in his gaze. "What did you expect would happen when you ruined my life?" Josh seethed, every word dripping with the bitterness of betrayal. No one moved, their eyes darted between the two young men as the reality of the moment loomed large. It was as if time halted. Trevor's mask began to crack. I didn't mean to. It was my dad." The pressure Josh fired back, his voice a low growl. "Excuses. You thought you could walk away, and I'd just fade away into nothing. I was nothing to you. But I built myself back up. You don't get to act like a victim now." Laughter echoed through the hall, harsh and jarring, piercing the suffocating tension. It was snickers, murmurs, and whispers all tangled up in the realization that this was more than a fight, it was a reckoning. Heroes and villains were rarely clear-cut. Everything was shifting. Suddenly, the school's fire alarm blared, its shrill wail tearing through the air and further compounding the chaos. Crowds surged, a mass of students anxious to escape the impending chaos. In a heartbeat, Trevor was swept into the throng, panic-driven, but Josh felt no pity. His heart raced, not with fear but with the adrenaline of justice ready to spill. "Run, Trevor. You can't escape!" Josh shouted, the echo of his anger mingling with the deafening siren. In the chaos, something slipped from Trevor's pocket, hitting the floor with a dull thud. A small black object, barely noticeable underfoot but radiating ominous significance. Josh's heart quickened, recognizing it immediately. A flash drive, the key to secrets buried long ago. He hesitated, then dove for it, urgency overriding his senses. The crowd shoved against him, mean faces flashing in panic, but he grabbed it before it was lost among the feet rushing to safety. And there it was, the object that could pull back the veil of years-long deception. He gripped it tightly, feeling a flicker of revenge lighting the path ahead. The fight wasn't over, it had just begun. As he pocketed the drive, determination coursed through him. He could unearth the truth, expose Trevor and everyone complicit in the lies. But still, lurking shadows warned him the stakes were higher than he imagined. Would the truth set him free, or would it entrap him in an even darker storm? As he turned to leave the chaos behind, he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Tomorrow, the past would clash with the present in ways neither Josh nor Trevor could foresee. But one thing was certain, secrets were about to unravel, and the very fabric of Maplewood High would tremble. What lay ahead was a journey neither could escape, and as tension soared, the inevitable confrontation with the truth edged ever closer. The following day dawned heavy, the air dense with unspoken words and unfinished business. As Josh walked through the halls of Maplewood High, the chatter around him buzzed with rumors, each murmur carrying the weight of last night's confrontation. Students whispered, eyes flickering toward him, judging, curious. Shadows followed him even in the bright daylight, clutching the flash drive in his pocket. The metallic chill felt like a reminder of everything he had endured. It was both a weapon and a burden. This was it. Today was going to be different. As he pushed open the door to his first period, tension thrummed in his veins. "Hey, man," said Alex, his best friend, leaning in close. "You good? I mean, after last night." There was genuine concern in his eyes, but Josh shrugged it off like a cold breeze. "I'll be fine. Just, got to figure things out." He glanced around, aware of Trevor's looming presence somewhere in the school. The thought sent a shiver down his spine. Across the classroom, Trevor sat with his usual crowd, laughing and joking, unaffected by the storm brewing around them. Every giggle felt like a punch to Josh's gut, a reminder of the privileges Trevor wore like armor. It sent a wave of fire coursing through him. No more hiding, no more pain inflicted silently while Trevor sailed through life unscathed. The flash drive weighed heavily on his mind. He needed to know what secrets it held. Could it prove what Trevor had done? The lies that had cost Josh everything? Each thought spiraled into a torrent of determination. He would confront Trevor before the day was out. Classes dragged on, each tick of the clock amplifying his anxiety. Finally, during lunch, Josh found a moment of clarity. He spotted Trevor alone at a table, a sandwich in hand, laughing at his phone. Josh's heart raced. He could feel the eyes of other students upon him, 1,000 expectations filling the air. "Trevor!" he called, control and fury woven into his voice. Trevor's laughter cut off abruptly, eyes locking onto Josh in surprise, confusion morphing into a mask of annoyance. "Can't you see I'm busy? Just leave me alone." Trevor's entitled tone ignited a fire within Josh, louder than the heartbeat hammering in his chest. "No, you need to listen. It's time to face what you've done," Josh seethed, stepping closer. The chatter around them fell silent, students leaning in, transfixed by the brewing confrontation. He fished the flash drive out of his pocket, holding it high. "You dropped something yesterday. This is going to expose you for what you are." The crowd gasped collectively, eyes wide, tension skyrocketing. Trevor's face drained of color, his bravado crumbling under the weight of Josh's revelation. "What? You're trying to leverage a stupid flash drive? That's pathetic." "Pathetic?" Josh echoed, every word a step closer to unleashing the truth. "You think what you did to me was pathetic? You ruined my life. And now, I'm going to ruin yours." "Stop." Trevor shot back, desperation creeping into his voice. "You don't know what you're messing with." "Try me," Josh taunted, the fire now consuming his doubt. The tension thickened as Josh prepared to reveal the contents of the drive, but a voice piped up, a girl from their English class, eyes alight with curiosity. "What's on it, Josh? What will it prove?" The question hung in the air, piercing the protective layers Trevor had built around his image. Inside, Josh hesitated only momentarily, calculating the multitude of paths in this moment. Should he reveal everything, his experiences, his pain, the dark shadow of betrayal? Or risk it all in a single reckless move? And suddenly, the door swung open, interrupting the charged atmosphere. A teacher stepped in, confusion written all over her face. "What is going on here?" Panic flickered across Trevor's face, a flash of realization that could lead to catastrophe. Josh couldn't back down now, he'd come too far. He swallowed hard, heart racing, prepared to step into the abyss. The stakes had never been higher. With the teacher's presence overshadowing them, the moment hung in limbo. How much of the truth would be revealed? And would it change not just their lives but the very fabric of who they thought they were? Josh knew it was now or never. Would he seize this opportunity, or let it slip away, potentially forever? As all eyes turned to him, one thing was clear: the reckoning was merely beginning. The room fell into an uneasy silence, stares pinning both boys like butterflies on a board. Josh felt the weight of the teacher's eyes on him, the room expecting him to crack like a fragile glass. He looked at Trevor, whose mask of arrogance was slipping fast. There was fear in his glare, a flicker of vulnerability that brought Josh a twisted satisfaction. "Josh." The teacher's voice sliced through the tension. "What's happening?" For a moment, everything teetered on the edge of disclosure. Panic surged through Trevor as he shifted in his seat, desperation clawing at his composure. The thrill of power coursed through Josh. He could finally expose the cracks in Trevor's perfect facade. Just the truth. "The truth about him," Josh said, keeping his voice steady, fueled by the defiance building within. He glanced back at the teacher, willing to share the weight of his pain. "This isn't just a flash drive, it's a record of everything Trevor did. The people he hurt. The secrets he's hidden." The teacher raised an eyebrow, growing more interested but still concerned. "That's quite a statement, Josh. Are you sure you want to go down this path?" Trevor's eyes blazed with fury. "You think you can scare me with a cheap trick? The only thing that's pathetic is your need for attention, Josh." His voice echoed, trying to regain the crowd's favor, but the whispers had already begun, spreading ripples of doubt. Josh clenched his fists, fighting the urge to backtrack. The flash drive felt like a ticking clock in his pocket, seconds passing, and he knew he had to act now. What are you afraid of, Trevor? Losing everything? You already took everything from me. Suddenly, a snicker erupted from the back of the room, drawing more chuckles. The students were starting to shift, caught in the web of the unfolding drama. Josh could sense the tide turning but almost didn't dare to believe it. Seriously, Josh? Trevor sneered, voice laced with disdain. You think you can bring me down? You're a nobody. I'm the king here. He gestured toward the gathered crowd, drawing their laughter closer, as if drawing power from their mockery, but Josh forced himself to look deeper, piercing through the arrogance, seeing the cracks in Trevor's bravado. You think it makes you strong? Hiding behind your money, your friends. You're scared, aren't you? Scared that I might actually have something on you. Something that could shatter your shiny world. Trevor stumbled back, the laughter faltering. You don't even know what you're talking about. But Josh could feel the tide changing. The excitement in the air was palpable. Students whispered and exchanged glances, their chants shifting from laughter to curiosity. The raw energy pulsed, he could feel it build and build until it snapped. I know exactly what I'm talking about, Josh said, and with one swift motion, he plugged the flash drive into the teacher's computer at the front of the class, the screen lighting up, but all eyes stayed glued to him. Wait! Trevor shouted, vermilion rage turning his face red, but it was too late. The first file appeared on the screen, and gasps echoed throughout the space, the title eye-catching, unmistakable. As the names began to scroll, revealing damaging secrets about Trevor and his entourage, shockwaves rippled through the room. The room fell silent again, then erupted, the whispers turning into whispers of disbelief, gasps of horror. What they saw was undeniable. The truth wasn't just revealing Trevor. It began to tear apart the very illusion of power he had built around him. Josh felt a surge of triumph mixed with fear. It was over, wasn't it? Or was it just the beginning? Because amidst the chaos, the atmosphere thickened with an unsettling tension. Trevor was no longer just a bully, he was a cornered animal, and those could be the most dangerous of all. As Trevor's eyes narrowed, something darker flickered there, a promise of retaliation. Would he take this lying down? Was this really the end for one of them? In the spiraling drama, one question became clear: what would Trevor do next? The stage was set, and it felt like a prelude to something far more explosive than any of them could anticipate. The gasps echoed off the walls like the sound of shattering glass, each student absorbing the unfolding chaos with wide eyes. Josh's heart raced, a sick mixture of adrenaline and dread twisting in his gut. He realized too late the magnitude of what he'd set in motion. Trevor's face contorted in fury, each muscle tight, each feature sharpened to a point. That anger was palpable, palpable enough to slice through the tension hanging thick in the air. The teacher stood frozen, mouth slightly agape, fingers hovering above the keyboard as if contemplating whether to hit delete or continue. Laughter quickly drained away, leaving behind a frigid silence that felt suffocating. Only Trevor's heavy breathing broke through, like a storm brewing on the horizon. Stop it. Stop it right now. Trevor's voice thundered, shaking with both anger and fear. He surged forward, a bull in a china shop, ready to obliterate everything in his path. You don't know what you're messing with. This isn't just a game. Josh stood still, rooted to the spot. He had braced himself for this, somehow predicted it, yet it struck deeper than he'd expected. Trevor was unhinged. What would he do? The fire behind Trevor's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but volatility brewed beneath the surface. A murmur rippled through the students, a mix of disbelief and excitement, spreading like wildfire. Some began reaching for their phones, likely preparing to record, to capture this chaos for all the social media feeds. Feeling that thrill tingle in the air, Josh clutched the edge of the desk. Was this the moment that defined him, a point of no return? Trevor opened his mouth to shout again, but he hesitated, eyes darting as if weighing threats. You think you can ruin me? He rasped, the edge of his voice dangerously low. What can you possibly do? Josh retorted, his voice steady as he felt his courage build. You think you're untouchable. This is your chance to spiral, Trevor. Your truth is out, and it's ugly. Trevor's lip curled, and he made a sharp movement toward the computer, but the teacher finally snapped into action. Enough! She yelled, regaining control of the chaotic scene. Both of you, to my office now. But as Josh prepared to leave, he caught Trevor's gaze once more. There was a flicker, a dark promise lingering just below the surface. This was beyond embarrassment, this was about vengeance. Mark my words, Josh, Trevor hissed, teeth gritted tight. You've crossed a line you will regret. I will destroy you. Just wait. Josh stumbled back, grabbed by disbelief. The intensity shifted from the room to the weight on his shoulders. What could he even do? He whispered to himself, fueled by doubt as he followed the teacher out. The air hummed with unsteady energy, the students exchanging tense glances, questions flying like angry wasps. But the hallways felt too narrow, the walls too closing in, making his heart thump louder and faster. Outside the teacher's office, he rounded on Trevor, seizing the moment to voice what lingered under his skin. You'll never get away with this, Trevor. The truth is like a fire, it spreads. Trevor laughed, a cold, chilling sound. What if I don't have to hide anymore? What if I turn that fire back on you? Josh's stomach twisted. A chill slithered down his spine. It wasn't just a threat, the gears in Trevor's mind were already turning, plotting revenge. As the teacher opened the door and ushered them both in, the impending dread gnawed at Josh, a fear that this battle was far from over. As the door clicked shut behind them, the echoes of their confrontation faded, but the weight of what was to come loomed larger. What exactly did Trevor mean by his sinister promise? The room held its breath, waiting for the storm to unleash its fury. Joshua realized, perhaps too late, that digging up Trevor's secrets could unveil something even darker lurking beneath the surface, a truth that would change everything. What had he invited into his life? The office felt like a pressure cooker. The walls were lined with academic accolades, but all Josh could focus on was Trevor. Seated across from him, his expression was a mask of fury mixed with deep-seated fear. The looming teacher, now sitting at her desk, seemed oblivious to the tension thrumming in the air. Josh wanted to pin everything on her, blame her for what was about to explode. But he knew Trevor's wrath wouldn't stop here. Sit down, the teacher commanded, her voice cutting through the thick silence. Josh obeyed. He felt small as he took his place beside Trevor, who was still simmering, fists balled on the desk. A moment's pause lingered before she spoke again. You both need to explain what just happened in class. Josh opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat as Trevor interjected. He humiliated me. In front of everyone. The pitch of his voice was unsettling, twisting Josh's stomach further. Is that true? The teacher asked Josh, brow furrowed. Not exactly, liar. Trevor snapped, leaning closer. You brought this on yourself. You dug up dirt you shouldn't have. Challenging him, Josh shot back, you think people don't know already? You've created a reputation for yourself, Trevor. Each word was ice, but inside, dread pooled at the base of his spine. You're pathetic, Trevor hissed, voicing every ounce of contempt that had been building. You think I'll just let you walk away from this? At that moment, a noise broke through the office, a slamming door reverberated in the hall. Peering through the tiny glass window of the office, Josh spotted one of the school's security guards, his stance rigid. What now? Josh whispered, clenching his hands beneath the desk. I don't know, but I think they're here for Trevor, the teacher replied, her tone grave. Trevor's eyes narrowed as he leaned back, a forced calm washing over him. It didn't erase the fear in his gaze, though. If they're here, it's your fault, he accused, voice dripping with poison. You're dragging me down with your stupid games. Me? You started this. Josh was shaking now, his own words ricocheting back at him. tension vibrating between them. Annoyance brewed on Trevor's face, but he quickly masked it with a calculating look. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Josh. This isn't over. He lowered his voice, every syllable dripping venom. Not by a long shot. Silence swallowed the room as a knock echoed softly at the door, piercing their battle of wills. The teacher stood up and opened the door slightly, speaking softly with the guard just outside. Josh couldn't hear their words, but he could see the deepening shadows under the guard's brows. What's happening? Josh pressed, battling to maintain some semblance of composure. The teacher turned back to face them, and her expression changed to one of concern. There are some accusations against you, Trevor. They're saying you. I didn't do anything. Trevor erupted, suddenly switching from fury to desperation, but the guard's voice was loud now, reaching their ears. We need to take him in for questioning about an incident at the games last week. Something serious came up. In a flash, the reality struck Josh like a slap. Trevor might think he could come back stronger, but this threatened to throw everything into chaos. The question of Trevor's vengeance loomed larger, and the fear in Josh's chest blazed all over again. Wait, you can't. Josh shouted, rising from his seat. The teacher held up a hand as the guard stepped into the office, taking a firm grip on Trevor's arm. You don't understand. What he is hiding could destroy us all. Josh's pulse raced as Trevor turned toward him, a wicked smirk creeping across his face, as if he had already plotted his return. You think this is it? Just wait until you see what I really can do. The door swung shut behind Trevor, and Josh felt the air grow heavy again. He couldn't help but wonder what other secrets were buried beneath Trevor's facade. What else had he unearthed with that reckless act, and if Trevor could unleash his wrath on this level, was there any chance for Josh to escape the storm? The very real fear clawed at him. Then, the phone on the teacher's desk buzzed ominously. Not this, Josh whispered, dread curling in his gut. The screen lit up with a single word: urgent. As uncertainty hung in the air, a chilling realization struck him: the battle had only just begun. What new horror awaited him? The phone's persistent buzz sent a jolt through Josh, his heart thumping wildly against his ribcage. His pulse quickened, and he could feel sweat beginning to pool at the nape of his neck. He glanced at the teacher, whose brows knitted in confusion as she picked up the phone. Maybe they found something on Trevor. She murmured, more to herself than to Josh. The tension in the room was palpable, thicker than before, tangled in uncertainty and looming dread. Whatever it is, it can't be good, Josh replied, his voice barely above a whisper. He tried to convince himself not to think about Trevor's warning, but it seeped into his mind like poison. What if Trevor had allies? What if he had already set something in motion? The teacher's eyes widened as she listened intently, her pupils darting back and forth as if she were reading a script in a horror movie. I see, she said finally, her tone shaking slightly. We need to get you someplace safe. Safe? Josh echoed, confusion spiraled through his thoughts. What are you talking about? It's Trevor, she said, her voice now a frantic whisper. The accusations, they're more severe than we thought. The air around Josh thickened as he tried to piece it all together, the knot in his stomach tightened. What had Trevor done? What secrets were locked behind that smirk? The scenarios rushing through his mind spiraled from bad to worse. Just then, the door swung open again, and a breathless student from the office barged in, eyes wide with terror. They're looking for you, Josh. Something is going down. What do you mean looking for me? Panic surged through him like a tidal wave, and he could feel every heartbeat pulsing in his throat. There's been a report you're being accused of something. Trevor's the one who is stirring it all up. Those words hit Josh like a freight train. His insides twisted in protest at the tidal wave of betrayal. Me? That's insane. I didn't do anything. The students shook their head, backing away slightly. Doesn't matter. They have witnesses saying you were involved in the incident. Trevor's behind it, he's playing everyone against each other. Josh felt the ground shift beneath him. Trevor wasn't just a bully, he was a puppeteer, pulling strings from the shadows. No, he wouldn't he can't get away with this. But Trevor wouldn't play fair. Josh could picture him, sitting somewhere smug and satisfied, his plan unfurling like a nasty little flower. The panic grew, he couldn't let Trevor ruin him, not now. Think, Josh, what do we do? The teacher's voice cut sharply through his frantic thoughts. If you deny it, it could cost you everything. You need to leave. Now. Leave. Just like that. Desperation clawed at him. You'll be safer away from here. I'll try to hold them off. Just go. The frantic energy surged through Josh's veins as he darted toward the door, ready to sprint down the hall and out of this nightmare. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting long shadows up the walls before plunging the office into darkness. The power outage sent a wave of panic surging through the building, followed by distant yells echoing down the halls. Josh! The teacher shouted over the chaos. They aren't just searching for you. They're coming for Trevor too. Intense fear swirled inside him, tightening its grip. As sirens wailed in the distance, the gravity of the situation crashed over him. Wondering if there was still time to undo the damage, he made his way toward a side exit, but in the back of his mind, as he dodged flying shadows and murmurs of confusion, a chilling thought settled in, this was only the beginning. And before he could reach freedom, a cold hand clamped down on his shoulder. Where do you think you're going? Josh turned, his breath caught in his throat, faced with the last person he expected to see. Now, more than ever, he had to figure out whose game this really was and who he could trust in a moment where trust felt like a trap. What would it take to untangle this web of lies? And could he even survive the fallout? Josh spun around, his pulse racing even faster now. Standing behind him, a glint in his eyes that sent ice through Josh's veins, was Mark. Mark, the quiet kid who had been in the shadows for too long, now transformed into Trevor's unexpected ally. What do you want, Mark? Josh managed to choke out, pushing down the rising terror in his throat. I just want to talk, Mark said, a smirk unfurling on his face like a snake uncoiling. No need to run, right? You can't escape the truth. The truth? Josh snapped, his fists clenching. You think there's any truth in what Trevor's saying? He's lying. Mark stepped closer, his breath brushing against Josh's face. Oh, but the more you deny it, the more it makes people wonder. Did you really think you could hide forever? Trevor's ensuring everyone sees you for who you really are. Josh felt the ground beneath him shift once again. It wasn't just Trevor he had to worry about, Mark was feeding into this twisted narrative, manipulating the chaos. The shadows in the hallway shifted as more students drew closer, drawn by the frayed whispers and the palpable tension. Listen to me. Josh said, fighting the flood of emotions threatening to overtake him. You have to believe me. Trevor's trying to pin something on me that I didn't do. You can't be part of this. Mark chuckled darkly, and Josh felt any glimmer of hope sinking quicker than a stone. You really think I care? Watching you squirm is my favorite part. You should have watched your back, Josh. Nothing freaks people out more than the truth mixed with a few lies. As Mark spoke, Josh's gaze darted around, deciphering the fleeing faces of his classmates. Some were frozen in shock, others stoking the fire of gossip with wild whispers. The murmur traveled like a raging storm, threatening to sweep Josh in its wake. Mark, please. Josh's voice cracked. This isn't just a game to me. I could get ruined. A flash of recognition sparked in Mark's eyes. The satisfaction surged like a tidal wave. Ruined? That's rich coming from you. Just remember I'm not in control of this, you are. Choose your next move wisely. Before Josh could respond, Mark glanced back, drawing the attention of the growing crowd. Look, everyone. The real culprit has been caught. His laughter echoed, shattering whatever hope remained for Josh in those moments. The words hit Josh with the force of a sledgehammer as confusion erupted among his peers. Accusations would rise like wildfire. The last thread of trust snapped, and a wave of dread crashed over him. With nowhere to turn, Josh glanced back at the teacher's office, hoping for some kind of help, but the teachers were now distracted, the urgency of the situation taking over. A scream cut through the chaos, slicing deeper than any blade. "They're here. The police are outside." Someone yelled, and those words sent another wave of panic surging through the air. Josh was caught in the eye of this storm, panic coursing through his veins. He had no ally, no escape plan, and a swarm of witnesses who seemed eager to believe any story that placed him at the center of Trevor's twisted narrative. As he felt the heat of the crowd closing in around him, everything seemed to spiral out of control. Heart racing, he wanted desperately to flee but had no idea where to go. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement at the entrance, familiar faces, friends, allies. They needed to find him, help him figure out Trevor's game. "Josh!" they called, voices rising above the cacophony. In that split second, Josh realized he might not be alone in this battle. The tides could turn if only he could reach them before Trevor's grip tightened completely. Desperation fueling his every move, Josh spun and surged through the crowd, determined to break free from the bonds of betrayal. With every step, he felt the stakes rising: his reputation, his freedom, but could he really count on them? Even now, in the heart of uncertainty, could he trust his friends, or had Trevor already poisoned that well? As he raced toward the exit, a thought buzzed in his mind, electrifying and terrifying. If his friends couldn't help, he might just be falling into another trap, one that could seal his fate forever. And watching from the shadows, Mark grinned, already envisioning his next move in this deadly game. What could be the final play? Josh pushed through the crowd, trying to focus on the voices calling his name, but the shouts faded into a roar of accusations and laughter. Each step felt like wading through quicksand. The anxious faces of his classmates blurred into one chaotic mass, all eyes trained on him as if he were prey, and they were a pack of wolves circling closer. "Josh!" It was Emily, her voice slicing through the noise like a lifeline. He turned, and there she was, her eyes wide with concern. "Over here." But before he could respond, the shadows shifted again. Trevor emerged from the edge of the crowd, his smug grin a taunt. "You really think they'll help you?" he sneered. "You're all alone now." Josh froze, the weight of Trevor's words crashing over him. He could practically feel the walls closing and the snickers and whispers pinning him down. The truth felt slippery, slipping through his fingers like sand. "Get lost, Trevor." Emily shot back, stepping forward to shield Josh. The defiance in her stance was a flicker of hope, but could it hold against the storm brewing around them? "Ah, the hero comes to save the day," Trevor mocked, rolling his eyes. "Wouldn't he want to get your hands dirty, now would you? This is bigger than you think, Josh." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as police sirens wailed outside, cutting into the turbulent scene like a blade. The gathering crowd began to panic. A wave of confusion washed over them as the students glanced nervously towards the exit. "Let us get out of here," a boy shouted. Chaos erupted, and Josh felt the panic hit like a punch to the gut. His friends started to pull away, fear creeping into their faces. What if they believed Trevor? No. He reached out, grasping Emily's wrist. "Stay with me." "Josh, we can't," she began, but her voice was swallowed by the crowd pushing towards the doors. He was losing them. He could feel the hope fraying at the edges, unraveling faster than he could grasp. "Wait." But his voice was drowned out. "Think of the story they'll write about you," Trevor shouted, his voice booming in the tumult. "The kid who thinks he's innocent, but everyone knows he's guilty." The crowd hesitated, their shared gasps painting the air with disbelief. A girl in the front whispers, "Did he really do it?" The question hung there, heavy. Josh's heart raced. Would he be defined by Trevor's lies? As the police burst through the door, their uniforms a stark contrast to the chaos inside, fear took root in the hearts of the students. Sirens blared louder, puncturing the silence, forcing attention where it didn't belong. Josh's world spun out of control, and no one knew what truth even looked like anymore. Josh turned to Mark, but the boy was already slipping into the shadows, face masked in satisfaction. How deep did this deception run? He didn't know who to trust now. Wait. He desperately called after his friends, you can't believe him. I didn't do anything. His protests faded into the chaos, swallowed whole like the shouts of a drowning man. A heavy silence fell as the police officers scanned the room, their stern faces cutting through the tension, and all eyes turned to Josh. He could feel their judgment, that weighing stare that stripped him bare. Paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, Josh felt as if he were standing at the edge of a cliff, teetering on the brink of implosion. Where should we start? One officer asked, his voice a beacon of authority amidst the chaos. As they approached him, Josh realized with a sickening dread this was the culmination of Trevor's game. They had come to find him. They were looking for the guilty party. The echo of footsteps filled the hallway, but one sound broke through the distinct clink of a cell door locking into place. And in that moment, he knew that whatever was about to happen could change everything forever. A thought crystallized in his mind, if there was no way out, he would have to fight back. But how? Just then, a distant voice broke through the tension, I know the truth. I can prove what really happened. You have to listen to me. Who could it be? Could this voice turn the tide? As anticipation built, Josh steeled himself, knowing the answer could either save him or seal his fate. Would this person stand up, or would they hide, leaving him to face the storm alone? The moment hung heavy in the air as Josh turned, hope suffused with dread. The crowd shifted, eyes a mix of curiosity and judgment, and every heart in the room pounded an uncertain rhythm. Who would step forward to save him when it felt like the ground was crumbling beneath his feet? Me, Josh. Emily stepped forward, her voice firm and resolute, piercing the chaos. I know what really happened. Trevor is lying. The weight of her words wrapped around him like a lifeline, pulling him back from the edge of despair. She was here. She was fighting, and he had clung to that hope since they were kids, even when the past had turned his life upside down. One of the officers turned to Emily, his brow furrowing. What do you mean he is lying? Trevor framed Josh. I was there. I saw everything. He is manipulating the truth to save himself. Emily gestured, her voice rising above the mounting tension. You can't let everyone believe him. You need to listen. The crowd quieted, absorbing her words like a sudden breath of fresh air. Doubt crept into their minds, cracking the facades Trevor had built. Josh's heart swelled with gratitude, he couldn't hold back the tears stinging his eyes. This girl was everything he had fought for, every shred of hope in the sea of darkness. She was standing tall, ready to be the light amid the storm closing in around them. As silence spread, Trevor, cornered and exposed, shifted nervously. You don't know what you're talking about, Emily. You don't understand. Oh, I understand all right, she shot back. You think you can drown us all in your lies? You think your money and your pride can erase the truth? Her words echoed, stirring courage in others as students looked toward one another, questioning what they thought they knew. You have it all wrong. Trevor's voice dripped with desperation, but the confidence was leaching away with each passing second, and the crowd began to murmur. Before anyone could fully register the shift, the officer took a step forward, eyes focused keenly on Trevor. We need to take a statement from you, he stated, a commanding presence that didn't leave room for protest. Trevor's bravado shattered like glass. No. I'm not involved. His face blanched as he realized the narrative was slipping like sand between his fingers. But the truth was seeping into the cracks around them, spreading like wildfire. The police officer looked back to Josh, the weight of their gaze pressing down harder than any accusation. We need to hear your side, too. This was it. This was the moment Josh seized as Trevor's underbelly was exposed to the light. "Please, look at the flash drive," he urged, pulling it out, heart racing. "It has everything on it, the truth about what Trevor did to me. You'll see he's the real culprit." While the officer's eyebrows shot up in surprise, Emily took a step closer to Josh, her hand brushing his as if to say they were in this together. The officer nodded, breaking the tension. "Let us get into my office and review what you have." In the whirlwind of moments that followed, Josh could hardly believe how everything had flipped on its head. Trevor shot him a look full of venom, but now that weapon was dulling. The truth had been unleashed, and it felt powerful and unstoppable. "What? You think this is over?" Trevor hissed, his bravado faltering with every word. "I'd rather burn it all to the ground before I let you win." The officer moved to escort Trevor out but paused to deliver a measured look back at Josh and Emily. "Let us handle this, one step at a time." As they exited the chaos of voices echoing off the walls of the school, Josh could feel a shift, a wave of support swept through the lingering crowd. Friends, allies, faces he hadn't expected to see were rallying behind him. Emily squeezed his hand, a silent promise of solidarity. Together, they took their first step toward reclaiming the narrative, toward unraveling the twisted web of betrayal that had entangled Josh's life for far too long. As whispers of hope filled the hall and everyone awaited the truth that would finally set things right, Josh drew a deep breath. There was no going back. It was the birth of a new dawn, where justice had a chance to prevail. And in that moment, he knew, they were done being pawns in Trevor's game. They were ready to take back their lives. With the reality of his past laying bare before him, Josh understood this was not just a battle won, it was a chance for healing, for redemption, and a life free from the shadows of deception. "Let us do this," he mouthed to Emily, her smile radiating courage. Hand in hand, they moved forward, stepping into the unknown together, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Now is your moment. If you haven't already, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Only true fans know how vital it is to support the channel.